really excited about today's program. I love what we're about to consider. The genesis or the origin of the facts. If God is real and if science is real, then they should come together in absolute agreement. So I want you to consider three very important things that we're going to look at in a moment. Number one is the evidence for life. Is there evidence for life? Its origin, its concept, its purpose, its design. So you want to ask yourself that question. The next thing is, does the evidence for life speak about a predetermined process to or for life? In other words, do you and I live with a purpose, or are we just an evolutionary accident? I'm going to argue with you that all of the data that is scientifically observable and repeatable screams to us that man, in fact all of creation, has been established by a predetermined process in the heart of God. Without concept, you cannot have what you and I experience today. And then thirdly, we're going to be looking at the practicality of life. Does life serve a purpose? Think about this for a moment. Emotional, intellectually, socially, does life serve a purpose? Is there concept to life being practical? If you live life, should it mean something? And if you do live a meaningful life, what does that look like? What comes out of the human life which transcends animal life? And is there a difference between animal life and human life? There is, and you're going to hear just how so in just a moment. So again, dive into this and really be thinking, because you need to take this information that you're gathering in a moment and that you have been gathering and take it to your high school campus, take it to your university campus, take it in your neighborhood, take it everywhere, because these are the issues that people are dealing with, and it comes very close to home. In fact, it may even be in your home right now. When is life important, valuable, sacred? And what is this question regarding the sanctity of life? Luke 1:15, it says, "For he," that's John the Baptist, "will be great in the sight of the Lord." He was still in Elizabeth's womb, his mommy's womb. And listen to this, this is the Bible. Elizabeth is pregnant to John, who will be John the Baptist. The Bible says, "For he will be great in the sight of the Lord, and shall drink neither wine nor strong drink. He will also be filled with the Holy Spirit, even from his mother's womb." That's God's view. When does life have value? Well, if you ask Adolf Hitler, it's only when you can guarantee an Aryan people. They got to have blue eyes or light-colored eyes, green, blue, light-colored hair, light complexion. His greatest desire was to have a Nordic person be replicated on Earth. A perfect Aryan race. And it's interesting how, by the way, Margaret Sanger and eugenics and Adolf Hitler agreed on purging the culture and the society of dark-skinned people. Read Margaret Sanger. Do you guys know who she is? You ought to look her up. Have you ever heard of Planned Parenthood? That's her baby. She's a saint to Planned Parenthood. I think she died in 1966, if my memory serves me right. It probably doesn't, but I'm close. And she was devoted to purging the race or the races to create a superior race of people. What happens when you think like this? Mark it down. The third consideration, the genesis of the question is this: when does life lose its value? When you adopt that way of thinking, ladies and gentlemen. When you push God out of your thinking, watch, when you push God out of your thinking, then everything goes askew. The human being, listen, all of us, when we choose to think wrong against God, our thinking goes off the track. And it goes into the bushes. It goes into the dirt. And our thinking goes insane. We think it's right, but it's wrong. And God says your heart becomes darkened, and your thoughts become foolish, and your logic and reason is skewed from reality and truth, so far to the point that you begin to worship creation rather than the Creator. That's powerful. Point number 2, politics and the preborn, the genesis of the facts. Number 1 is this, the evidence for life. The natural creation bears witness to many things, of course, but the overwhelming testimony is that mankind is the centerpiece of God's creation. Do you ever think about that? According to God, mankind is the centerpiece, not angels. Angels were not created in His image. You were. Isn't that amazing? A baby was created in the image of God. The evidence for life, the genesis of the facts, is amazing. Evolution's not true. God engineered it all. The evidence is overwhelming. Everything speaks about God's incredible evidence for life. The next thing is this. The genesis of the facts is the predetermined process to life. It's coded. Life is coded. In Genesis chapter 1, verse 12, God said there that He was going to create everything after its own kind, and that within it, it would have its own information. This is very cool. Before I was born, I know that, 1858, before then, people used to think that there was evolution because this frog was a bigger frog than that frog, or this thing, this thing had scales, but it wasn't quite exactly a fish, or this thing must have evolved from that thing. And what's amazing is now we know from science that God was exactly right in Genesis chapter 1. Did you know that? Hello? God was exactly right, that everything produces after its own information-coded kind. And the variation within the species is written on the code. A species never moves onward to a different species, ever. Charles Darwin didn't know that, or if he knew that, he suppressed the truth and unrighteousness. A lizard does not become a bird and whatever. I mean, how many of you would like to be able to fly just with your body? Raise your hands. You'd like to just fly. Look at all of your hands. If evolution was true, we'd have wings right now. Why? Because we all want that. I want it, I want it, I want it. I think it, and thus it is. Evolve. Boom. I have dreams of flying. I run down the street. I don't want to get into that. It's personal, but it's not in my DNA, though, doggone it. I have to get an airplane to do that. God says, book of Job, chapter 31, verses 14 to 15, that God predetermined. God was in the womb making and engineering. Job 31, verses 14 to 15. Isaiah 44, verse 2. I got to go quick. I'm out of time. Thus says the Lord who made you, who formed you from the womb. God was there. There is the genesis of the facts, and the facts are these. There's a predetermined process to life. And abortion is the wrong thing to do. To stand up, Christian, for the defense of the preborn is what we must do. They are innocent, and God says that we need to defend them. So what we want to consider right now is the genesis of life. And you know by now, right, when we talk about Genesis, we're talking about the origin or beginnings. So the beginning of life, or the genesis of life, we consider three very important things. Number one is the morality of life. What's that all about? Where does man derive his morality from? If we are evolutionary byproducts of an accident, then how do you explain morality? Very, very important. So that is something that you need to consider. And the next thing is the meaning of life. And I really am excited about this. Regarding the meaning of life, there's nothing I can look at in my world that does not have meaning or purpose. And listen, friend, meaning and purpose presupposes vision, okay? You've got to have vision to have meaning and purpose. And so as you look around, for example, there's a potted plant, there's electrical outlets, there's a wall, there's plant life. One is made by man, the other one is made by God, And some of these things have come together where man has infused his talents into what God has given. Everything, if it's man-made or God provided, irregardless, my friend, it has a vision or purpose, and that is very important. There is nothing in this world or universe that you can look at that does not have a vision or purpose, which brings about its meaning. And then we're going to be looking at the measure of life, the measure of it, how a life that God has created, that God has established, is not to be tampered with, it's not to be exterminated, it's not to be eradicated, it's to be lived out, because God has created you and I to be incredibly meaningful and fruitful, and can I say measurable people? Not miserable, measurable. That how you and I live, it should dramatically matter. The people that you and I come in association with, their lives should be different because you and I have met them. Coming together, sharing what God has done in our lives, the fact that Jesus Christ loves us, that God has a purpose for us, oh my goodness. There is a meaning, there is a purpose. Your life has a great measure for it. And my challenge to you is to live up to that measure. The Bible tells us that God has created for you and I specifically unique and specific callings for our lives. That's for you to discover. So never again should you ever wonder if your life has meaning or not. My friend, absolutely. And maybe right now you're carrying an unborn child, a preborn baby, and you're wondering, what do I do? Listen, you let that baby come to full term. If it has to be put up for adoption, go for it. But listen, by all means, let God and science have His predetermined plan so that that life can be brought up in the full measure for which Christ has made that life. God bless you. We'll talk to you in a minute. The genesis of life. Number one, the morality of life. It is a miraculous thing, but we're talking about the morality of life this way. Unless someone is under demonic influence, think about it, life by nature is precious to us. How can a person exterminate another human life? In murder. I'm not talking war, that's different, and God says so. I'm talking about murder. The morality of life. You say, well, I don't know what you mean. How about this? Did you know that Planned Parenthood and abortion clinics are doing everything to keep women from seeing that baby in them with a sonogram? Did you know they're fighting against that? Why? You should see the statistics that once a pregnant woman sees the sonogram or hears the baby's heart, it's such a tiny, tiny, little tiny thing, like that big, they change their mind. They say, I'm going to keep it. Why? Because there's a God-ordained morality to life, ordained by God. See, this is not a political issue, is it? Politicians have inserted their face into our business. James 1:17 says, every good and perfect gift is from above and comes down from the Father of lights. Micah chapter 6, verse 7. Maybe this is you tonight and you're struggling with this. You're scared. I understand that. There's people here who will love you and walk you through and help you. But if tonight you're fearing pregnancy, Micah chapter 6, verse 7 says, will the Lord be pleased with thousands of rams or 10,000 rivers of oil? In other words, will God be pleased if I just get religious with what I'm about to do? What if I just talk to God and do a religious act? Shall I give my firstborn for my transgression, the fruit of my body for the sin of my soul? Maybe somebody forced himself on you. Maybe you were dating somebody, or maybe it doesn't matter what the thing, and you know, we shouldn't have done this, and I got to get rid of the child. Why should the child and you suffer any further from a mistake when God has a plan for that life and for your life? Forgiveness for you and life for that child. I've done services for women who have had abortions and wound up trying to have closure, where they gave a name to that child and they went forward and they fell on their knees and cried. And these were women from young ages to very old. I was very surprised. And they said, you know what, 30 years ago I aborted a child. It was a little boy, and I gave him a name today. And there's closure. But why would you need to suffer that? You don't need to suffer that. Choose life. Always choose life. And when you go into the voting box in a few weeks, choose life. One candidate is against it, one is for it. Crystal clear. I believe as a pastor, if I don't say that, then I have blood on my hands. You may not like what I just said, but I'll stand before God and He'll smile upon me. Think for a moment. Los Angeles Times, you saw this about a month ago. Los Angeles Times in the obituaries posted a key figure in the God is Dead movement of the 60s. He's dead now. He's a theologian. He figured out God died at some point in time. And we're all on our own. And he said if Christianity is ever going to survive, Christianity is going to have to learn how to function without God because He's dead. Guess what? Now he's dead. The guy that said that is dead. And you know what? If he could talk to us tonight, he would say, was I wrong? But church, listen. Professing to be wise, they've become fools. Psalm 14:1 says, the fool has said in his heart, there is no God. When God dies in man's thinking, then man turns and kills other men. Because we have no one to answer to. If God is dead, eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow we die. If God is dead, it's the survival of the fittest. My gun's bigger than yours. What you have, I want. You lose. What's wrong with that? When somebody goes nuts in a theater in Colorado and kills people, and then we have the audacity to say, how could this happen in America? When we've pumped it into that kid's head for 16 years in school, he's nothing but a biological freak, climbed out of a primordial hole, he's an evolutionary byproduct, and it's the survival of the fittest. I'm being sarcastic, but you get my drift? We are a culture of hypocrisy. God is not dead. Your life matters. And maybe tonight, this thing about, and this argument about, is it political, is it a spiritual, is it a religious thing about the preborn child, the unborn child? It's all of the above. It's a moral issue, it's a religious issue, it's a political issue. And we end with this. The genesis of life is the measure of life itself. Isn't it amazing that you and I love life? What kind of a religion or person or people, culture or group would hate life and try to exterminate life? If Islamicists are terrorists to the world, then what would a mother or a father plotting and planning an abortion of the fetus or the child or the preborn or the whatever apply you make it, whatever context you're in, wouldn't that child now view its own mother as a terrorist? Coming against it? Coming against him? Coming against her? Whatever your context? Now listen, the measure of life. Listen, God says in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 18, come now, let us reason together. Though your sins be as scarlet, I will make them as white as wool. Come, let's talk. Maybe tonight you talked your girlfriend into having an abortion, or your wife. Or maybe you were scared and you said, I just got to do something about this. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. God knows that. And He hears and feels your suffering and your pain. And God wants to forgive you and set you free tonight. Do you understand that? This message predominantly tonight was to instruct you on how you should argue and defend and stand for the preborn and vote. But what if it's you tonight? God loves you. And you've been bearing that load. I killed my child. What would he have looked at like? How old would she have been by now? And you've been carrying that load. Let me encourage you right now. According to the scriptures, that baby's in heaven. The Bible makes it very clear. Where there is no knowledge of the law, there is no sin imparted. That child is in heaven. Do you want to see that child again? Can you imagine? before God Almighty, being reunited? You say, I don't know, that's kind of terrifying. In perfection, God wants to lift that load from your heart. Let me share with you as we begin to wrap this up that this topic is extremely important to me personally. I've been appreciative of life. I've been a defender of life. For biblical reasons, but I must tell you, first of all, before I even knew that there was a God, before I even knew what the gospel was all about, I found out one day in between football practice and lunch. I was home one afternoon watching TV, and my mom was on the other side of the wall talking to a neighbor friend, and I found out that when my mom in 1957, December of 1957, my mom was abandoned by my father, scared, pregnant, had 2 kids already, having moved from Hawaii to San Diego. She didn't know anybody, and yet my mom was pregnant. In fact, she was almost 9 months pregnant. But being abandoned, my mom attempted to boil a coat hanger in the kitchen in San Diego and attempted an abortion. I thank God that it failed. Later, I found out later that she was excited that it failed. But she really did a lot of damage to herself, and she was rushed to the hospital, and there she stayed until January 15th, 1958, when I got to come into this world. And though I wasn't wanted by my earthly father, and my mom in her fear tried to reject what was happening, I'm grateful because in June of 1977, June 20th specifically, a Monday night, I heard the gospel for the first time, that Jesus Christ loved me, that there was a Father in heaven who cared about me. When I heard that, my friend, I got to tell you, all of that stuff of the past evaporated in a moment's time. And my life in a second made purpose. The Bible tells us in the book of Jeremiah chapter 1, verses 4 and 5, that from the womb of our mothers, God has called us. I don't know what you think about that, but I think everything about that. And I want to encourage you that maybe it's possible that you have been one who either caused a woman to have an abortion, or maybe you are a woman who has gone through an abortion. And I've ministered to a lot of people over the years who bear that burden. They feel as though they have murdered their child. And you know, I have to confess, the Bible makes it very clear that abortion is murder. But listen, there is no sin greater than Christ's ability to forgive. You cannot sin so great in such a way that God cannot forgive you. And you may have done what you did like my mom, in total fear, scared to death, not knowing anybody. But listen, it's wrong. Abortion's wrong. To end life is wrong. But Jesus Christ said, I have come that you might not only know life, but that you might have it more abundantly. Isn't that awesome? So listen, you maybe perhaps have been carrying a burden that is just so huge. Well, I want to encourage you with this. My mom came to know Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior. I got to share the gospel with my mother, and she accepted Jesus. She came to know the Lord, and remarkably, she read the Bible every day for about 5 weeks. And she died. 5 weeks after accepting Christ, my mom went into heaven, forgiven by God. I can't wait to see my mom again. And think right now, maybe you are one who's been involved in an abortion. Someday, through Christ, you'll see your child in heaven. Imagine that. Only through Jesus can this happen. Listen, it's our hope that through Jesus Christ, you will know real life. And I want to just introduce you to that truth right now. Father, I pray for all those right now that have been affected by abortion. And God, I pray that your grace and mercy and your love would invade right now any heart, any soul that has been self-condemned and bearing that load of sin. That Jesus, right now, you would invade the strongholds of guilt and shame and break them free. Father, bless them, encourage them. Lord, might I add, as you have done in my life, in my own mother's life. And Father, thank you, even now today, that my dad came to know Jesus as Lord and Savior. God, you're awesome, and I thank you. Bless these now who cry out to you. In Jesus' name, amen. God bless you. We'll see you next time right here on Real Life.
What do you think about war, abortion, and education? What do you feel about homosexuality and capital punishment? Do you believe evolution is true? Your opinions and beliefs about these important issues are summed up in your Worldview. This series is designed to provide a theologically sound, though sometimes politically incorrect, set of teachings to give you a biblical worldview. Join Jack Hibbs as he tackles some of the most controversial and culturally sensitive issues of today. Over 24 topics to choose from, like global events, the Middle East, money, war, dating, sexuality, when life begins, what is suicide, what you believe defines you. To see the full list of Worldview topics, visit reallifewithjackhibbs.org or call 877-777-2346. That's 877-777-2346. Or write to us at Real Life with Jack Hibbs, P.O. Box 1273, Chino Hills, California, 91709. If you'd like to see the full description of all the topics available to you, contact us now. Jack Hibbs truly believes we are living in some of the most exciting days in history, which brings some great opportunities to share with the world a powerful, no-nonsense presentation of the gospel to this generation who is searching for answers and truth. Will you stand with us in sharing this message in real and practical ways? We ask that you commit to support Real Life each month with a gift of your choosing. In return, our gift to you for becoming a Real Life partner, we'd like to send you this Worldview DVD. It's titled, What You Believe Defines You. Call now, 1-877-777-2346. That's 877-777-2346. Or by mail, P.O. Box 1273, Chino Hills, California, 91709, or simply go to reallifewithjackhibbs.org. Your gift will be faithfully put to work because it's our desire that through Jesus Christ you will know real life.